don't even know where.
I'd like to call to order the Charter Township of Oxford Board of Trustees regular meeting for Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. Board members, if you please turn your mics on. We'll call to order the meeting by first paying respects to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Noting of the roll.
Noted there is a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari and a second by Trustee Charles. Are there any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none. Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the following corrections. For the water legal fund bills of $495, I'll move that from the water fund to BTA 25-0001 in the building permit fund. And for the Brad Dewey sanitary sewer, there's 4 invoices on those that are for Parks and Recreation. So that invoice will be $255 for Parks and Rec, $780 for sewer.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari and a second by Trustee Colvin. Are there any questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Trustee Charles.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Colvin.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Trustee Yonda.
Yes.
And Supervisor Curtis.
Yes. Item number 6, public comment on items not on the agenda. Time for the public. If you have any comments, please come on up to the mic.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Brian Cloutier. I'm your library director. I see some new faces up here. Welcome. As your director, if there's anything that I can help you with in your processing the work that you do here on the township board, I'd be more than happy to help you, because aside from running the day-to-day operations behind the scenes of the public library, I'm also your librarian. I also want to just make everybody aware of the fact that the construction of the library is pretty much wrapped up. We're done. We have minor incidental things at this point. The punch list is completed at this point as well. We will be replacing windows in our circulation lobby. They say this month, but things tend to be behind schedule these days. But as soon as we have the dates on that, we'll have to shut our circulation lobby off to the public. We'll reroute people through another part of the building. But we won't have to close for that. But we'll make sure that we put all that out on social media so you're aware of the transition to go to where you need to go to get into the library. All right, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other public members like to speak on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, Board of Trustees comments. We'll start with Trustee Amved tonight.
Nothing at this time.
Clerk Wright,
I have nothing to offer at this time, thank you.
Treasurer Ferrari,
Nothing, please.
Trustee Colvin,
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Wagner,
I'll talk a little bit about what some of the activities I've been involved with over the last month. I'll try to make things a little bit interesting. So as a member of the hardship committee, we reviewed and finalized our property tax relief guidelines as part of the safety path committee. We've been working on finalizing the safety path master plan, which will show up as part of the overall planning master plan activities. As part of the water and sewer committee, we've been working to fund an approved grant to expand our sewer system, and so good work's going on there. Also part of the cooperative invasive species management area committee. So we had actually attended a discussion, an interesting discussion with the Dr. Mike Schuster. He's an ecologist, and in particular, he talked about using grassy seed mixes to help control buckthorn. So if anybody has any buckthorn issues, that's the research he did actually looks pretty effective, and in this grassy seed mixture is actually sold by M&L Corp. So pretty interesting stuff. Also had the opportunity, the privilege actually, to attend the Oxford Addison Youth Assistant Annual Luncheon Meeting, and where they discussed a lot of the activities around our youth support for the last year. Very impressive, and they're actually currently looking for additional volunteers to help support their activities. So please reach out to them. And also attended a discussion on the Trail Water Land Alliance meeting. So they talked basically 3 areas: community habitat improvements, using this high technology LiDAR to survey park and trail infrastructure. And they're also working on a bird city designation program. So if there are any bird lovers out there, reach out to the Oakland Bird Alliance. They're looking for volunteers. Also attended a meeting of Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments. So they support Southeastern Michigan, and they reviewed a lot of legislative activity that's ongoing. For example, a lot of developments coming out of Lansing, including the implementation. I'm sure you've heard of the minimum wage and tip increases, as well as a road funding plan. That's all for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Charles.
That's it, David?
Yeah.
Couple of things. You mentioned the Oxford Addison Youth Assistance. That was a nice meeting. And thank you for attending. We do have a fundraiser coming up. If anyone has cans and bottles they want to dispose of, that's one of our fundraisers for Oxford Addison, which, as you pointed out, is a pretty good organization. I think one of the best here in Oxford. You mentioned SEMCOG, the SEMCOG meeting we had. I was at the City Council in Pontiac a couple of weeks ago. That was a great meeting. And I did have a chance, I think Supervisor Curtis would like this, to speak with a couple of the representatives or commissioners for the Oakland County Board of Commissioners and address some of our concerns about the enormous increase that we suffered from with the police contract that just came up with. Polite conversation, but at least they brought it to their attention, which they are very much aware of. I think by now most folks have seen we've got no-has coming up. I saw that a few places posted, and if not, I'll get the information those dates coming up. And I guess that's it for now.
Thank you.
That's it. I can do more, but we'll get out of here around midnight.
Thank you. I have 3 items. One, the substation build-out is coming to a close rapidly. We're waiting on the installation of our the lockers, the new additional lockers. Today I emptied the pods with Personal Touch Moving. We got the things in the 3 new rooms, but there's much more work to do because with our recycling of some of the boxes, one side says treasurer, one side says accounts for the clerk. So we have a mess. We'll go through that. We're going to do the punch list here probably the week of the 24th. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is be prepared. We have an assessor's contract coming up. Another secret contract from the county commission where they won't let it out until after they've had a chance to manipulate it and make sure it's making enough money for the county. So that's coming forward. We may even have an opportunity to be back in the assessing business again. Other than that, oh, one more thing. I'm going to ask this question out loud, Brian, and maybe you can say yes or no. Does the library still have subscription to the grant portal that you had before?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. So CJ can use that if we have to figure it out. Thank you. Okay, item number 8A, 4 County Community Foundation. I see someone in the audience. Go ahead, CJ.
Okay. Good evening, board members. I just wanted to introduce, this is Kathy Dickens. She is the executive director of the 4 County Community Foundation. And I just wanted to sing their praises a little bit because in the last 5 years since I've been here, they've awarded us 5 grants totaling over $53,000. And that's allowed us to add equipment to our senior center, establish a community garden in the park that provides free vegetables to those who are experiencing food insecurity and local seniors, install free smoke alarms and free carbon monoxide alarms in households containing seniors, individuals with disability, and low-income persons. Construct the Helen Smith Park out here, our 2,400 square foot pocket park. And most recently, last year, expand and enhance the pickleball courts in Seymour Lake Township Park. Fort County has been an excellent partner. Kathy and I have an excellent relationship, and they're a valuable resource, and she's here tonight to tell you a little bit about their organization.
Brian's on that board too, so we gotta kind of be nice to him too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am here as the executive director of Fort County Community Foundation, and Brian has come along as a important trustee and also a fund holder on behalf of the library. He holds an endowed fund. And the work of the foundation is just really fun to talk about, so I really appreciate any opportunity that I get. People joke with me, I'm a retired school principal, so I've done a fair amount of discipline in my life. And now I get to go to work where it's a birthday party every day. I give gifts away. And I don't personally, but our board loves to review a good grant. And you've had many of them written for Oxford projects by the likes of CJ and the other nonprofit leaders in the area. So my job here today really is to make sure that I leave with you not scratching your head and asking the question, Fort County Community Foundation, what's that? I've never heard of that. I really like that whole curiosity, or I just like that to go away. When people say you're the best hidden secret around, we don't want to be a hidden secret. Everyone can be involved in their community foundation. So what our work is essentially is we're a conduit or a pipeline, if you will, between people who want to see good things happen in their community and are willing to put a little money forth towards it, and then nonprofits, city, municipal government, schools, libraries that want to do good work. We're that pipeline. We move the money along from the people who want to have the good things done to the entities in your community that do the good work, excuse me. And I also wanted to say that Oxford now has a fully endowed community fund, thanks to a little luncheon we had here a few years back, and Jack was kind enough to put me in touch with somebody who shocked us with 50%. So essentially, Oxford has its own endowed fund, its own community fund. So, you know, if anyone were in love with this community, and I can't imagine anybody wouldn't be, what's not to love? And they wanted to donate once in a lifetime, once a month, once a year to their community. They could use the Oxford Community Foundation to do that, because all the dollars donated to that fund come right back to the community. So it'd be my greatest wish is to kind of get people acquainted with that fund and all of the good that it could do. Park benches, projects for little kids at the school, food pantries, library, essentially any project that touches your community, that does community good, we want to be a partner in. And we wish to grow that fund, as you can tell by what CJ had said. You know, we've granted quite a bit, but boy, oh boy, we could do a lot better. And so, you know, more grants to us to review, more donations to us to give back to the community. Again, utilize our services. So we've been around since 1987 and have served Oxford since 1987. We started with the sale of a hospital at $2.5 million in '87, and we've grown it to around 25, 26 million, while giving back to our larger community area $13 million in scholarships and grants. And a lot of our work is in scholarships in recent years. We have about $630,000 that we give out in scholarships each year. And I would say not many of them in the Oxford area. Could we grow that? Could we do a lot more and establish a lot of Oxford scholarships? Of course. I'm sure there are students who would love to go to college and people who'd love to help them get there. And so that's certainly a field that we could grow into, as well as all the other beautiful projects. So with that, I could go on forever, but I would have, Brian, would you have anything to say as a trustee and or the fund holder of the Oxford Public Library Endowed Fund?
Kathy and Brian, I would like to entertain any questions before we walk away tonight, in case we do have some. Go ahead, sir.
For the sake of time, I just want to say that it's been a pleasure serving on the Fort County Community Foundation Board. It has opened my eyes to the philanthropic world in many ways that have been so rewarding. not just on a local level, but in the entire region. The library, what got me introduced with Fort County is when I was the director at Emily City, we received a number of grants through Fort County Community Foundation over the years, but more so when I arrived here in Oxford, we had 2 endowments. They were really endowments in name only. They were not what I would call bona fide endowments. We, the board, and I discussed where to put those funds. We merged those funds together into one fund, and we met with folks at the Fort County Community Foundation. We discussed things with the Southeast Michigan Foundation, and we felt that Fort County Community Foundation was our local foundation, and that is where we wanted our funds to go. Since we moved those funds, I think it was somewhere around $35,000, $40,000. That has grown into about close to $150,000 in a very short period of time. So that leverage that we have together in making the foundation work and making the money work for our community has been a huge value. So, and likewise, if there's anything I can help be the conduit between the township and the foundation. Obviously, I review a lot of those grants, so I have to be careful about how I go about doing that. But needless to say, if there's anything that you have questions on, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Thank you. At this time, any board members have any questions for Kathy or Brett? Yes, David. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe 2 quick questions. One is, there's a website for your organization?
Absolutely, and I brought with me some literature and some business cards I'd be happy to
Perfect.
approach and kind of just hand to you, and you can pass along.
You talked about the scholarships. Those are also listed on your site, and those are searchable?
They are. Our scholarship window currently is closed, and we're going to be reviewing them soon. But again, we have $630,000 in scholarships, that are set up per the donors' wishes and mission. And so those donors in large part are from our other communities. We don't hold, I think there might be 2 scholarships that touch Oxford. But the only reason that is because we haven't had any donors come forward to initiate one.
I see.
Mhm.
That's the same, Mark Charles. Did you know Mark? Were you there when he was there?
It doesn't ring a bell.
I mean, it's been years since Mark was a trustee, so,
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been with the foundation since 2019.
okay, that was before then.
Yeah, there's been some wonderful people representing the foundation.
Any other trustees? Jeffrey? Well, thank you very much. I look forward to our annual lunch.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. You can pass along the invite to your colleagues here. Might I approach one end or the
Sure,
other and drop some?
I'll take them and
Okay,
we'll pass them out from there. Thank you,
All right.
Kathy.
thank you. Appreciate your time today.
All right, you set them right on top of them.
Got it.
There
Thank you.
go. Board members, thank you very much. Next up is 8B, MetroNet Internet Streaming and Phone Service Presentation. I have the Savalas brothers back here that are going to come up and speak. If you'd come on up to the lectern and introduce yourself.
This is Tully Whitfield from MetroNet. He met with Danielle and I a few weeks ago and has an interesting proposal about bringing high-speed internet to Oxford with fiber infrastructure. So we met with him, thought it was a great presentation, and we wanted to bring it to you tonight to hear more and possibly take some action in the future.
I see they left a brochure on each one of the trustees' fronts here.
Good evening, Supervisor Curtis and board members. First and foremost, I really do believe it's appropriate that we're dovetailing with the Community Foundation presentation. Because I spent 25 years working in local government management. And I know one thing's for sure, is that communities do not stay static, right? So when you have communities that are intentionally investing in themselves, that's really a positive thing. So I commend the Community Foundation, and I commend.
Sorry, I don't understand.
And I commend Siri. And I commend all of you for continuing to invest into your community to make it even a better place to live here in Oxford Township. Again, my name is Tully Whitfield. I do appreciate the opportunity to come before you. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to tell you about MetroNet. So again, I spent 25 years working in local government public management. I worked in 3 different states and 5 different communities. I always saw myself as my professional work was really a ministry because my professional mantra was to build communities. Fast forward to 2022, I had the opportunity to join Metronet. And Metronet continues my professional mantra of building communities. This time I have the opportunity to build communities leveraging the infrastructure of the future and now with fiber internet. So when I was with the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina is the 6th largest city in North Carolina, or as we like to say, and we put it in our budget document, the 6th largest city and the 9th largest state and the greatest country in the world. We've been in the news recently with the change with Fort Bragg, from Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg. When I was there as the assistant city manager there, Metronet came into our city after doing some due diligence and said one statement to me. We want to privately invest $70 million into your community to build a fiber infrastructure network. If you guys are familiar with Jerry Maguire in the movie, you had me at hello. So over the next couple years, we were working out because we were the first municipality in the state of North Carolina that Metronet was interested in. So obviously we took our time to make sure we understood, one, why Fayetteville, but two, what does this mean for us? And doing that research, we realized how important it was to have fiber into our community. Now note I said 2019 is when Metronet came to us. Something happened in March of 2020. It was called COVID, the pandemic. Changed the world, right? Literally stopped everything. And we realized how important it was to have technology. People working from home, schools with virtual learning and asynchronous learning, telemed, in addition to just quality of life aspects as well. And of course, the economy. One of the things I like to talk about now when we go into different communities is you realize the economy pre-pandemic and the economy post-pandemic is different. Because a lot of folks didn't go back to those jobs because now they were using technology to change the economy, right? A new industry was established. So I say all that to say the infrastructure of today and tomorrow is really around fiber, high-speed broadband, which is through fiber. So who is Metronet? Metronet is actually the largest privately owned fiber to the home internet provider in the country. We were established in 2005 in Evansville, Indiana. So we're a Midwest-based company. But as I talk right now, we're in 18, maybe 19, depending on the time of day, 19 states. We're about to go into our 19th state. And we have over 300 communities in which we either are already providing service or we will be, we're building the infrastructure to provide service in the very near future. Along with me today, I have my colleague, Ben Rusek. Ben is actually the Regional Vice President of New Market Development. And he is in this area. He's been working in the Midwest area for quite a long time. Metronet actually has infrastructure in the state of Michigan already. We're in Western Michigan. Ben was partly responsible for obtaining some of those markets. And what we're interested in now is moving into the eastern portion of the state of Michigan. So over the last 6 months or so, we've been going through our due diligence market evaluation process and looking at essentially two major clusters of communities in which we believe are underserved with the opportunity to have high-speed broadband internet. And that would be portions of Oakland County and portions of Macomb County. I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about those two markets as we move forward, but I'd like to reemphasize that we love to invest in communities that are invested in themselves. And so we saw Oxford Township as an opportunity to bring fiber infrastructure into this community and provide services for your residents and your businesses. So again, Metronet is the largest independently owned pure play fiber. All we do is fiber. That's what we do. We do fiber internet, fiber telephone services. We did build our first network in 2005 in Greencastle, Indiana. And again, now we sit at over 2 million residential and business subscribers. And again, we're in 18 about 19 states. I'll also say that I wasn't a math major in college, so I know that if you actually do those purple states in there, it doesn't add up to 19, but I promise you we're in 19 states because we're actually starting in Nevada very soon, and Kansas actually not even added to that as well. So we're growing as a community. Next slide, please. So why fiber? It's really simple. Quality of life imperative. Your residents deserve competition in the market to have a quality service for what internet is. What's the difference between fiber and traditional cable, coaxial cable? The difference is speed. The difference is reliability. The difference is redundancy. So let me talk about those things. Speed. What we have is the ability through fiber to have your upload speed symmetrical to your download speed. So for instance, if you have download speed with your internet right now, you may have, let's say, 100 for your download speed. For your upload speed, you might be getting 25. So therefore, you get that little circle of death, right? You get degradation of service. Also, what happens with traditional cable is that when you're on your internet, is that when folks come home from school and folks come home from work, you start to see that degradation, that latency, that lag. So what you may have had at 10 o'clock in the afternoon, at 10 o'clock in the morning when other people were gone, you don't have that same speed. With fiber, you stay consistent throughout the whole time. It's very reliable, and it has what we call redundancy. The way we build our networks, if there is unfortunately a utility strike on one place, we can actually locate that, isolate that situation, and then run the fiber the opposite direction to make sure that we maintain service for the preponderance of people. Secondly, economic development. In my old days of working in local government, I also worked a lot with economic development. A lot of times when you have businesses that are coming into the community, and when you have local community businesses would like to grow, our small business base would like to grow, one of the things they want to know is, what is our infrastructure? Do we have fiber that can actually grow that? Why is that important? Because it's important for efficiency and business output. As fast as we can get things in and out. It's really important. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, that's why we're unique, because we have symmetrical service and it's fast. One of the things that's great about MetroNet is we talk about how great the product is. I truly believe that the product sells itself. That's not what I'm here to do, is sell a product. But what I want to talk about is the organization that builds the product. And we've been recognized by multiple industry standards as one of the best. One, over the last 2 years, in 2023 and in 2024, we've been recognized as the fastest ISP in the country. And that's through PC Magazine. And also, we have one of the safest products as far as the way we build our infrastructure. And so we're recognized by those who are protecting the public infrastructure. So we're really excited about who we are, and we stand by the values of who we are. As we grow over 2 million subscribers, we're still a small business, and we have that small business value, a family-owned value to the organization. Thank you. So a road to a gigabit city, okay? A gigabit city being that the opportunity for over half of your residents to have access to at least 1 gigabit of speed in your internet, okay? That is something that's very aspirational for many communities, for various things. One, obviously for quality of life and livability. We have a lot of folks that do a lot of streaming at home, as well as gaming at home. So that's really important from that perspective. And then obviously, as I mentioned, from the economic development perspective as well. So here's kind of the layout, if you will, of the process of becoming a gigabit city. And I should go back and state one thing, is that here with this particular bill, we are very interested and excited about, let's say, 3 years ago, when I was first coming on board, there's a lot of speculation. Again, we're coming out of COVID. There was a lot of speculation. Honestly, everyone and their mother had interest in building fiber infrastructure. You had the BEAD money that was coming down. It was really kind of an exciting place to be. That being said, there were a lot of unmet promises that occurred during that time frame. What we've been able to do over the last year and a half with the growth that we've really been very strategic in our approach in looking at our markets. And when we look at our markets, and when we come out and we have conversations like the conversation that I had with CJ and Danielle, we are seriously interested and very close to investing in the communities. So when I mentioned Oakland County and Macomb County, right now we're interested in investing probably about $100 million or more into these communities to privately fund a full build of a fiber network to service these communities. Obviously, Oxford Township would be a portion of that, and that's why I'm here. So, how do we move forward with our gigabit community? The first part is the partnership. The partnership is what I call a lowercase p partnership, and that's really that communication to engage with the elected officials, but also to engage with the administrative staff, so we understand permitting. We understand your certificate of insurance and bonding requirements. We also understand the fabric of our construction and the construction standards and the community standards of what they're looking for when we're talking about a build of this size. Secondly is the communication piece. We over communicate. Here's the difference between MetroNet and some other providers. We're here. We didn't just go out and try to pull permits. I know here in the state of Michigan, it's fairly unique that we have what's called the Metro Act, which is kind of a global permitting process that local municipalities opt into. Going through that process, oftentimes you may have never seen the organization that come before you before they go and you have a a Metro Act permit that's in front of you. That's not how we behave. That's not how we want to be seen, because we recognize that before we actually get a subscriber, we actually have to make sure that we know the community feels comfortable with us, and when we start to do the investment in that community, building that first shovel that's in the ground or that first strand that goes onto the poles, that we're going past our future customers. And we want to have that relationship, and we want them to know who we are. So that's why that communication is very important, pre and post the build. In addition, while we're actually going through the process, we have a three-pronged communication notice process that I'll go into a little bit detail later. I would love to say that you close your eyes and for 10 seconds and you wake up and we have fiber internet all across the community. But obviously it's a construction process. I just listened a little bit earlier as you were talking about some of the expenses that you had to take care of the business of the community. When I was doing capital projects in my former life, I would have loved to just do a complete build of a sewer project or of a pavement condition project, but money is an object, right? Particularly when you're talking about the people's dollars. So therefore, we look at doing a capital project over a 5 or 7 year horizon, and we find ways to fund that. Well, we're very fortunate because we have private investment that we get a large fund of money to construct at the beginning of the project. That then lends us to say, we want to make sure that we are working with the local community because we don't want to inundate the local community and go in a big swoop. So we will partner with them to talk about how it's going to be built in segments and making sure that you're walking along the path the same way we are as well. In particular, when there's utility locating capacity, we want to make sure that you guys are comfortable as we're moving forward as well. So that's part of that communication in the construction process. The other piece that's really important for us is restoration. We are working in the public right-of-way and the utility easements. However, most residents, and I know this from my years of working in local government, don't know the difference between what's my private property and what's the public right-of-way, right? So in addition to that communication portion of that, we want to make sure that we're restoring all of the area as soon as possible. This is a metric that is one of our key performance indicators for our senior leadership. In fact, on a quarterly basis, Ben can attest to this, on a quarterly basis, we get that review. It just happened the other day when the CEO of the company talked about our restoration efforts. And then finally, release. We release as we go. So what we're looking at here for Oxford Township, we've actually identified roughly 4,000 households and businesses that we believe are underserved with fiber, with their internet capacity. And we would love to provide fiber internet to those 4,000 residents and businesses, those properties. That's what we call the pass. Anytime that you have access to fiber internet, pass a property, we call it a pass, either from a residential household or from a business community. We don't wait till all 4,000 of those are complete, tested, spliced, and then lit up before we actually release for service. We release in what we call small neighborhood polygons, or LCPs, that then we'll have folks that can have their service up immediately once they're ready to go. You don't have to wait till the end. Thank you, Mr. Wright. So again, the partnership is about transparency, it's about accountability. I like to say it's about vulnerability, because we'll talk about where we are, where we're going. We'll also talk about the unfortunate mishaps that may happen, because it is construction. We can't just close our eyes and wake up in 10 seconds and say, wow, voila, the project is done. And sometimes we have a colleague that says, human beings do human being things. And sometimes accidentally they do things wrong. And so we have to deal with those as well. So we acknowledge that there's utility strikes, but we're also accountable to those utility strikes as well. The one thing we also like to do is make sure that as the elected body, you're not inundated with additional calls from the community about what's going on. So we have a 1-800 number. That's a stateside number. Our call center is actually in Paducah, Kentucky. And that people can call, and it's just about construction. Doesn't say anything about the product. It talks about the construction project and says that if we're here in your area, we're permitted by the local municipality to be there. And this is what we're trying to do. We're going to be working in the right of way. If you have, for example, an irrigation system, or if you have an electronic fence for your pets, we want you to call us so that we can white line those and make sure that we're not interfering with your property as well. So we want to do as much as possible to make sure that we have goodwill and awareness with our residents, and obviously not inundate the elected officials. So here are some quick examples of what that communication plan looks like. The first letter goes out approximately 45 days from the start of construction. So if you lived at 111 Smart Street, we would send out a letter. Now granted, I know how many times I go to my mailbox. I think my kid goes to the mailbox looking for letters more than I do. But that's our first foray into the communication. So if you could go back, yeah, thank you. So that letter that's up on the northwest side there, with the purple heading, that's what that letter looks like. And it talks about who Metronet is, that we are permitted to be in the right of way once we actually have that access, and then how you can get in touch with us as well. The next thing that happens about a week or so, a little over a week until we're actually in your community, is we'll have a postcard that goes out to that same address. That postcard will say that construction is underway. Typically that means we may be in the neighborhood adjoining, or we may be on the next street, but we're coming to you very soon. And again, it's a reminder, for some folks, it might be the first time they've seen it, but it's a reminder that we are in the area. And then finally, we'll have the week of, and typically this is when, right before you start to see the utility locating that occurs in the community. And I'm mainly focusing on underground utilities right now, but obviously we also work from an aerial perspective because we follow power. But in this instance, if we're doing an underground construction right here in the right of way, what we do is we'll put lawn darts out in each of the properties to let them know that within that next couple days, we'll actually be going in, and then I'm going to remind everyone that we do the restoration as well. We also put out signs for egress and ingress to make sure that people are just noticing that we're in the community. Everyone that works for us will have PPE, and they'll have notifications along with ID cards that say that they're working for Metronet, and all of our trucks also have the signage on them as well. One of the things that we do, I'm going to briefly jump over this one, so you're perfect, is because of what I stated earlier around the idea that not a lot of folks really understand what a right-of-way is or what an easement is, that we have these educational videos that we do share with communities that many of them have actually had as a link on their site to educate the population about what's going on. So that's just another resource that we have. Yes, sir. Thank you. This is actually an actual build that we have. This is Findlay, Ohio. And if you remember me mentioning that we build in neighborhood polygons, or what we call LCPs, you can kind of see how that's mapped out right there. So as we move forward, there may be in the upper left, and I can tell you I can't see those numbers very well either, but in the upper left-hand corner, there may be an LCP there or a neighborhood there that has 300 to 500 properties that are in that area. And then once we complete that LCP, we actually turn on the switch and it's available for service. As we move forward, and I will say this, that we've gotten approval internally from our board to have funding for construction. The Oakland County build that we've expressed interest in, we've already designed for a majority of that build. That initial build right now includes Bloomfield Township, West Bloomfield, Waterford Township, Commerce Township, Independence Township, and the city of Bloomfield Hills. The second phase of that Oakland build would include, hopefully, Oxford Township, Orient Township, and the city of Auburn Hills. And so that first build has been designed. The build that you guys would be involved in has not been designed yet. That would be premature. We wanted to make sure that we had the conversations with you guys prior to doing that. I mentioned in the state of Michigan, we have Metro Act permits and applications. We have submitted Metro Act applications for 6 of those jurisdictions in that initial build, and I've already received back Bloomfield Township that has approved. They've taken formal action and approved our build. So the next stage for us then would be to have a kickoff meeting and start the process around permitting locally. We've also had conversations with the Roads Commission in Oakland County, because I know they also have responsibility for a lot of the right-of-way access. One of the last things I want to talk about is what our equipment actually looks like. Many people are very familiar with telecommunications, and I think the mark of telecommunications seems to be pedestal farms. That's kind of the upper middle there. Our actual infrastructure goes in the opposite direction. We are flush mount, we go down with it. So what you see down right beside the pedestal farm in the middle is what we call flower pots, and they go into the ground and then we can pull them up. In addition, we have the vaults there. All of that again is flush mount. We think aesthetically it looks much better for the community. It's also safer for us because unfortunately, how many people have seen the utilities that have the guts hanging out or the top of the pedestal that hasn't been taken care of, and it's very difficult to get somebody to come out to do that. I will also reference the fact that when we do have a build, we have local staff that will be here in this area, not only as we build, but after we build, because we want to install as well. So we'll have folks that will be in the community moving forward. And last slide. Well, second to last slide, I apologize. This is kind of the ABA thing. I heard you used to be a principal. I used to teach. So I'm going to bring it back full circle here. We want to be invested in the community. We want to be a part of the community. That's really one of our core values as a company. And so when we go into a community, one of the things, this is, I think, the part that Ben really loves the most about our company, is that we have a presence in the community. We have a community engagement division that's very active, and they do charitable organizations. They contribute to the community foundations. We do fairs, book fairs, financial literacy classes, as well as computer literacy classes. We sponsor parks and rec teams, things of that nature. So we want to be a part of the community. And that's really who MetroNet is. And I think more than anything, I want to go back, and that's why I was really excited, and thank you, whoever set the agenda up, because it was perfect, to talk about the investment in the community. And I'll reiterate this, is that communities don't stay static, they don't. Either they're invested in and they grow, or they go in the opposite direction. So I commend you for the work that you're doing to invest in your community, and we want to be a partner in that going forth. Thank you for your time, and I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Tell me if I may, tell me.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I really appreciate you coming here and explaining what MetroNet does. I'm pretty aware of what goes on. My son lives in Niceville, Florida, and one day they came in and put 10,000 flags up. Everybody wanted to know what the heck was going on. They put fiber internet under everybody's driveway in the front yard. I went down there in February, the orange and yellow flags and blue flags are up again. Another fiber company came in and ran it right alongside the next one. But what they did is what you're doing. You're coming in and telling the community that that's what you're gonna do once permitted, once you engage your communities you're enrolled in already. You're gonna pull the permits, you're gonna work in the right of ways, all the laws and legalities with the old franchising of cable, that's all gone and done. So you're moving forward and you're just telling us you're moving forward.
We would love for it to be a hospitable relationship. You know what, and I think you made an excellent point that I didn't mention, and that's the situations that you referenced around people building over top of each other. One of the things that we have as a business practice is MetroNet doesn't overbuild fiber. It doesn't make any sense from a cost modeling perspective, as well as just from the perspective of you're ticking off the community, right? And so therefore, in areas that already have a active fiber plant, we will not build. We have not done that as a business practice, because it just doesn't make any sense.
Jim,
I'll take questions. Trustee Charles.
how does your company make money?
We sell. So we're rooter to tutor. So we own the fiber, and we actually sell the product. So we are an internet service provider.
So who are your purchasers? Who's buying from you? Who's giving you money? Meaning like Netflix, or what are you talking about?
No, so no, we're independently owned. We're independently owned. That being said, it has been public now that we have a joint venture moving forward with T-Mobile. Their expectations is that they're getting into the fiber business, so we would be a wholesale provider for T-Mobile as T-Fiber.
Okay. Who owns the company? You said it's privately owned. Who's the owner?
Yes, so the Sinelli family are the founders and still part owners of the company. And then we have, 2 private equity firms in addition to the joint venture that would be moving forward.
What town in West Michigan are you guys in?
Excuse me?
You mentioned you have a.
Yes.
What city, what town?
Yes, we are in Grand Rapids, we are in Portage, we're in Kentwood, we are in Lansing and East Lansing. Did I miss any, Ben? Wyoming. We have approximately 250,000 passes in the state of Michigan already.
Are you doing the village of Oxford too?
Yes, that is my intention, yes. I'll be there tomorrow morning.
What's the, from when you start to when you finish, what time is there? What's the
Excellent
start to
question.
finish time?
Excellent question. We have the resources to build, and let me localize it to Oxford Township right now with about 4,000 passes or so. That we can be in and out of 4,000 passes based off of the not being too burdensome with utility locates and things of that nature from the local government. But we can be in and out in a couple months with 4,000 passes.
So if this goes through, when would you start Oxford?
So that we're probably looking to have this project, as I mentioned, this has this second portion or second phase of the Oakland County build has not been designed yet. I'm probably about 6 to 8 weeks away from design. Once it's designed, then we'll have to obviously make sure that we have our Metro Acts approved and things of that nature. I would look at by the fall, we could hopefully start construction. That would be a fair schedule.
Any other questions? Jeffrey?
So, when, my understanding, thank you for the presentation, how do you bring the fiber into the residence? So
Yes.
running underneath, and is there something that's adjacent to the outside of the house, like a normal utility, or how does that work?
Correct. So, note I didn't, and that's a very excellent question. So what I talked about mainly was the network infrastructure and building the network. And all of that's gonna be on the public right of way. When we do installs, that actually is when we go into the private property. And then what we do is drop bury. It's typically around, Ben, 10 to 12 inches underground
Yeah.
when we go into the community. Do you wanna come up here and talk a little bit about the technology?
Sure. Thank you,
Put you on the spot?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate the time to be able to answer your questions. So, as Tilly mentioned, all the infrastructure is going to be laid during construction process. Once a resident says, hey, Metronet, we'd love to give you a chance and have you installed, we'll come out, those little round disc boxes that were flushed to the ground, those are called flower pots. There's going to be one close to that home. We're going to bring the line out of that box, and then that's going to come right up to the resident's home. We're going to come up typically to wherever the current utilities run into the home. That way we're not creating an additional space where they don't want us. But a resident can tell us, hey, I actually don't want you over there. We want to move over here. They'll give us an idea where they want that box. That box is going to house what we call a splice box. That's going to be where we splice the cable that's going to go into the house, and then the one that comes outside. That way if damage is on the outside, we don't have to go in the house. If it's in the house, we just pull that line and replace that.
Gotcha.
That is fiber all the way into the house, so then we'll place what's called an ONT, or an optical network terminal. That replaces what you're used to seeing in traditional cable, a modem. We don't have a modem, we have an optical network terminal. That's what makes our service so powerful, is it's actually fiber all the way into the house.
That's fantastic. And then one other question, you mentioned, I think it was 4,000 passes. So how did you determine that number? And I ask that because in some of the communities, you might have fiber running down the main road, but then it's not going in to some of the subdivisions that are down there. So if there's fiber running down that main road, are you gonna say, I'm not going there?
No. So we are aware that there's a other provider in this community that has fiber, but they are not in all of the neighborhoods.
Correct.
So therefore, we are really focusing on the neighborhoods that do not have fiber currently, and that are currently not on the plan for that provider. That's
So in
what
other
we're
words, to
focused on.
get to there, you're gonna lay next to other fiber, but getting
Right.
into the community is where you
Right.
kind of.
So I may have talked earlier about the rings, for example. The rings are typically going to be around on county roads, your main thoroughfares, et cetera. That's where you see where the long haul fiber comes through into a community, right? So you may see that connection there, but then obviously they'll split off into the actual neighborhoods. That's an outstanding question.
I could help. I know that this township is on fiber, but our industry is not. And to load those giant CAD files is always a bone of contention when Michigan EDSC or Oakland County comes out here, and they always complain that we can't download these big CAD files to provide defense systems with trading back and forth. Those are the areas you'd really hone in on first. We already have it. You're not gonna hone in on us.
Right.
You're gonna hone in on where it's needed the most.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good.
Any other questions? Yes, David?
Yeah, you talked about LCPs. What's the typical size of an LCP? You said 300 to 500 homes?
300 to 500
Is that
homes.
what
I mean,
is?
it varies.
Okay.
I will say this, that obviously density matters, just for a cost to build perspective. And that's a secondary part of the question that's an obvious secondary part of the answer to your question. But yes, typically it's 3 to 5. And there'll be natural breaks, like a main thoroughfare or, a park or, just natural breaks that will have that.
Trustee Charles, you had another question?
Just, what's the involvement from our homeowners?
Outstanding question. So obviously, when we go and what the Metro Act would cover and then the permits would cover would be public right-of-way. For us to go into an HOA, we'd have to have what's called a utility access agreement, so we negotiate them separately. We would love to have in additions with HOAs. So when I mentioned the 4,000 residential and household passes, that's excluding HOAs right now because we can't assume that without having a UAA.
Currently, our cable provider, we sign an agreement, they run the wire up to the house. That's the same thing you're talking about there.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Joe. Oh, I'm sorry, Clerk Wright.
Just one quick thing. You've given us a presentation. What is the next step? Is that us as a board to determine whether or not we keep the process going?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I mentioned internally, we have a couple things that we have to go through, some milestones. So one would be that design, because this particular area has not been designed yet. Once we get further into that design, concurrent to that, I'll submit a Metro Act permit and application to the board to take action. In addition, I'll be talking to not only the team will be talking to not only the Roads Commission of the Oakland County, but also to your staff to ensure that we have a better understanding of your right-of-ways and all of the expectations around an infrastructure build. But the next action would take from the board would be having a Metro Act that comes before you, and then that would be how you move forward. I will say that we have engaged with Orion Township as well. I had a meeting that unfortunately had to be pushed back to April with them, but we've had lots of very positive meetings in this community. To say the least, I think we've heard pretty consistently that there's appetite for additional competition in this market, and that's why we're here.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Great. We'll move on. Item 9A, Chief, Fire Department, recognition.
Good evening. What I had done was I had sent Supervisor Curtis, included him in an email, and just wanted you folks to know as well that some of our people did some wonderful work last week. You might have seen it all over the news on a CPR save at Italia Gardens. And while they were not recognized in the news story, they did the heavy work and they did a heck of a job. And we had the family come out and reach out to us this past week. And I just wanted to let you know that we are doing good things. And the crew that was involved happens to be on duty tonight, and they're not able to be here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So because of our job, crazy, right? But just so you know, and recently Supervisor Curtis and CJ came with me to Oakland County, where previous crews were recognized, again, for saving lives within this community. And it's so nice that the guys get recognized by somebody else. And we appreciate that, and just know that we appreciate the support we get from this community, and we appreciate the support you guys give us. And it's just nice to be able to give the guys and gals in this case some recognition for what they did. And without, you've got it up on the monitor and it'll be on the screen. So the gentleman is doing well and is expected to make a full recovery. And so I appreciate you putting that before the board so that people do know that we are here and we are working for you.
I got the email and I wanted everybody to understand that you and your crews work hard to keep us safe, get us to where we need to be faster than we should.
Well, we're trying. There was one other thing, we were supposed to have the American Legion dinner this year, and that got canceled due to a bunch of illness at the Legion. And we're going to be recognizing one of our firefighters tomorrow. But we're also going to be making recognition for somebody who really gave us a lot of support for the last year plus in my time here. Somebody who's helped us throughout the millage and all the work preparing for that during Fire Prevention Week, showing up for all of our tours, taking pictures, posting on Facebook. He doesn't know about this, showing up to open house and being a good Samaritan for us, a good servant for us. He's there with Shop with a Firefighter. He's at Cider and Donuts. He came to our ice training recently and taking pictures. And the most important thing recently is he's helped with the grants to secure the funds for our training tower. So on behalf of the Oxford Fire Department, in recognition of CJ Carnacchio for exceptional dedication and invaluable contribution to the Oxford Fire Department, we just wanted to present him with a little recognition.
Take your picture. Take your picture, CJ.
We need somebody else to take a picture.
No, that's fine. I'll get one. Thank you very much. This means a lot, and you know, really, it's you guys do all the work, and it's even from the newspaper to here. It's always a pleasure to highlight good people doing good things. So, but this is very unexpected. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
CJ, if you could just turn around, I'm sorry to interrupt, I can get your picture. I'm not as good as CJ. Let me get a close up. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Like I said, I'd hope the crew to be here, but life happens, right?
I can get him here.
No, you can't right now, actually. So, thank you.
Thank you. Item 10, Sharp Engineering Report. Board members, in your packet was the memorandum from Sharp Engineering, where we are with all the projects going on in the community. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to take them back to Engineer Sharp, or some of our committee members can answer those questions if you have any. Seeing none, we'll move on. We have no unfinished business. Item 12A, under new business, allocation of tri-party funds. Board members, for several years, Oakland County Road Commission has administered the tri-party fund. This program purpose is to fund road improvement projects in which the three entities listed on the sheet in your packet contribute 1/3 of the funds towards a project. That's Road Commission of Oakland County, and the Charter Township of Oxford. Attached, I gave a list of all the recent history of tri-party funds as allocated in the Charter Township of Oxford. Last year, the Roads Committee re-gravelled over 14.5 miles. We spent almost $400,000 on re-graveling some of our roads that haven't been touched in over 50 years. For 2025, you'll see $115,140 has been budgeted and allocated to the Charter Township for a road project. The Highway and Roads Committee met on February 26th, and the committee is recommending that the budgeted tri-party funds be allocated to the Dunlap Road paving.
I move that any 2025 Road Commission for Oakland County Tri-Party Program funds received by the Charter Township of Oxford be allocated for the proposed 2027 Dunlap Road paving project.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari and a second by Trustee Charles. Are there any questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Trustee Onvet.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Trustee Colvin.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Charles.
Yes.
Supervisor Curtis.
Yes. Item 12B, Oakland County Treasurer's Office Foreclosure Prevention. I was asked by Oakland County Treasurer Robert Wittenberg to bring it forward at our board meeting to talk about foreclosure prevention. So the letter states the Oakland County Treasurer Office is in the final stretch of our foreclosure prevention efforts. The tax foreclosure deadline for 2022 and/or prior year is March 31st, 2025. That means if these taxes aren't paid by March 31st, or any interested party hasn't entered into a repayment schedule with the Treasurer's Office, by then the property will be foreclosed. Since November 24th, the Treasurer's Office has conducted over 1,000 taxpayer assistance meetings to assist taxpayers in keeping their properties by working with them to get on a repayment schedule and/or identifying resources that may be beneficial to them to get a repayment schedule. We are here to help and strongly encourage taxpayers to contact us before tax foreclosure deadline if they have delinquent taxes for 2022 or prior tax years. Taxpayers interested in scheduling taxpayer assistance meeting may call the county treasurer's office at 248-858-0611, or they may visit www.ogov.com/treasurer. Treasurer Ferrari.
In Oxford Township and Oxford Village, we'll have one parcel that's still outstanding. I'm in constant contact with her, at least once a week, reminding her this has to get paid. All the other ones, we probably start off with about 10 or 15. I call them very regularly, kind of remind them to get that paid. We got one person that still is on the list. Everybody else is already paid, and she only owes about $600.
Yes, Trustee Charles.
So you said there's one person in the village and township, and that's it?
That's it, one property owner.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Excellent job. Okay, that was for information. Item 12C, adult use marijuana distribution. Board members, in your packet, the township recently received its 2024 adult use marijuana funds from the state totaling $177,685.98. I'm proposing the board allocate a portion of these funds for the construction of the Oxford Fire Department's training tower. Since the community benefit agreements signed with the marijuana establishments in the township require their donations go toward the construction of the fire training tower, I find it appropriate that the additional revenue we received due to the presence of these establishments be allocated to the project. Attached to this 12C is the Chief Majestic's cost breakdown for the tower. Per the community benefit agreement, Frequency Wellness, the one establishment in the township that hasn't opened, has committed to contributing $100,000 to the project. In anticipation of receiving these funds, and in order to get the tower constructed this year, I propose allocating $100,000 of the adult use marijuana funds to this project. When Frequency Wellness opens and they honor their $100,000 commitment, that money would go back into the township fund for future allocation. Currently, the fire department is responsible for $37,000 of the projected cost, as you see in the breakdown below on the second page. I propose the fire department utilize its millage funds for daily operation, and the township allocates an additional $37,000 in these marijuana funds to cover the fire department's portion of the tower cost. In conjunction to these costs, talking with Chief Majestic, I have a company that's willing to donate the land balancing, pier sinking, and surveying of the land to ensure that there's any additional cost for this foundation for the training facility. And as soon as Chief gets me the scaled plans, they'll be out to stake, measure, and start the process.
I move to allocate $137,000 of adult use marijuana funds for the construction of the Oxford Fire Department training tower. If and when the Frequency Wellness facility opens, their $100,000 community benefit contribution will be used to reimburse the general fund for future allocation. This $137,000 is to be expensed to account number 206-357-962.036, training tower expenses.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Charles. I'll entertain any questions. Trustee Charles.
When does Frequency Wellness anticipate opening?
They may not open. Their building is currently looking for, while they hold a license with the state, they are looking for a person to rent the building and open their cannabis dispensary. Should they are even entertaining non-cannabis retail establishments. We're working with Dr. Suter from McLaren Hospital to try to put doctors' offices in there and other facilities. So if they don't open, we will not see the community benefits money. If they do and we see it, we'll then place those funds back for reallocation. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Colvin,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Charles,
Yes.
trustee Donvet,
Yes.
clerk Wright, yes, treasurer Ferrari,
Yes.
and supervisor Curtis.
Yes. Item 12D, Ordinance Review Committee Request for Funding. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you. Before I get to the motion, just a little bit of background. So over the past couple of ORC committee meetings, committee has been reviewing and building upon the work completed by the previous ORC committee. And as such, your packet includes a prioritized list of new ordinance activities, I believe starting on page 204. Mr. Mateo Pasquale, and sorry if I butchered his name.
Passalacqua.
Okay, that's the lot. Anyway, he has taken this prioritized list and developed a work plan that estimates the effort required to complete each of the ordinance development activities.
I'm sorry, trustee Wagner, could you speak into your microphone, please?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And his work plan is outlined starting on page, I believe, 199 of the packet. In executing this work plan, the ORC intends to adopt a two-pronged approach. So for ordinances without substantial concerns, we'll go ahead and allocate the necessary time and resources to create the ordinance. And conversely, for ordinances that warrant for further consideration, we will initially draft a framework for the board's review and comment. So this approach will enable us to exercise greater fiscal responsibility by minimizing the time and expense allocated or associated with the ordinance development process. With that, any comments or questions?
Okay, I'll take questions. Treasurer Ferrari.
Trustee Wagner, one thing I like to see when you have low priority recreation amenities not required to be part of larger residential developments, I see that moved up.
Okay.
Because like we have caning property and all that, if it one that develops, I'd like to have some type of recreation in that property.
All right, we can bring that to the board or committee.
Yeah, we have to remember one thing, that recreation will be for that community only. It'll be on private property unless deemed to the township as a township park, to which the township park director has no interest in them.
I don't see a sample motion, unless I missed it.
Clerk Wright?
Yeah, I think, when I look through this list here, I think there's a lot of things here that I don't necessarily think that we need to have explored in some of these, and some of these I'm just not in favor of.
Okay,
I make a motion to authorize ordinance review committee to do changes to the ordinances as requested for a budget amount not to exceed $16,750. I hate making motions.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari.
We'll second that.
I have a second by Trustee Wagner. Board members, we're gonna go through this list one at a time and determine which ones we wanna do, or are we voting on doing all of them as specified? Because number one, the one that really sticks in my claw, Clerk Wright, is the tree or woodland ordinance. We had this in front of us several times, and it equated to several $1,000s of cost due to the residents' homes that it would cost to build a home there if we had all of the things in a stringent woodland ordinance. We have to be very careful.
So for example, that would be one we would create a framework and bring it back to the board for review and comment before we spend
All of the
significant
ones
resources.
as moved by Treasurer Ferrari would come back to this board before they would be enacted.
I believe that's the normal process.
Yes, it is.
Is that,
Trustee Charles?
so every one of them, would come- that seems kind of a cumbersome process.
Well, every one of them has to come back to us to begin with. Number one, for public hearing. Number two, for us to vote them in or out.
It sounded like, Mr. Wright had some
Questions?
I guess I'm thinking the word here. Could you explain what you were
Expound?
talking about? Yes.
Expound, yeah, well, I spent some time with Planner Passalacqua, and some of the things I didn't understand was the general requirement for private roads, and I don't know how much depth you want to get. The short story is that somebody doesn't have access for their residence, and they're using a trail for the road and it goes in the setback, that could be considered a taking because the township's going to deny the permit to build that residence on that piece of property. So I'm thinking, well, that's kind of silly. Then industrial setbacks. When you look at going from 25 to 75 feet on industrial setbacks, when you look at the zoning in the township, you have basically 120 properties. There's a lot of them that it doesn't even affect them. So you've got probably maybe 10, maybe 12, I don't know, maybe there's more, that would really affect having to set another ordinance just to appease these people from having to go to the ZBA, for example. Landscaping standards, I think Supervisor Curtis touched on this stuff too, that here you're making people put in these trees and all that stuff at the expense of opening their business. It happened to, what was it, Culver's? It happened to?
Yes.
That, you know, you're holding them up to do these things and you're putting all these items in place before you can get an approval. Woodlands ordinance, I've lived that industry in the surveying field, and, you know, I'm thinking that developers want to preserve the trees, but that's kind of hypocrite on my part, because we saw developments on East Rain Road just clear cut the whole properties, but I'm thinking you're just taking on additional work and also a price tag to the resident who buys a residence in Oxford. Zoning map maintenance, I see we need that, that's a good thing. Traffic impact studies, seems to me the county does those, and they're on their website, and even probably the state does those as well. Environmental impacts, that's another thing, and usually these properties that get environmental impacts is like a phase one environmental. You know, you're gonna make them do another one? I don't know. ZBA action, mixed use zoning, you know, back in the day, we had gravel overlays for mixed use zoning. Residential development and recreation requirements, that's what Supervisor Curtis just alluded to. So those are some of my concerns of saying, you know what, I think we need a little bit better idea of where we're headed here, because when you look at the zoning ordinance, it's so darn big, it's so hard to understand, probably for the planning commissioners and for the applicants. So
I want to trailer on Clerk Greg's statement. For example, the recreation in private subdivisions. We have one right now, Waterstone. I get 5 to 10 calls. The police department gets 5 to 10 calls for people using the beach in Waterstone, for people using the facility at Waterstone of the gazebo. You know, these are on private property, but I can't, I'm an Oxford resident, I can't stop there and use it, but it looks like I can because I see cars parked there, because I see people swimming there. I can't stop there. It's posted for residents only, but I can't see it because I parked down here. So it causes us a lot of problems with cost of sending the sheriff out, cost to the residents who buy the homes, cost to the developer doing the business, all because we feel or we would like or we think. So we have to be very careful about enacting some of these ordinances to satisfy 1, 2, or 3, or 10, or 20 people's needs. That's less than 0.001% of the population of Oxford. So we have to be very careful about how we implement them. And I agree with Clerk Wright. Any other questions, comments?
Question, would you,
Trustee Charles?
to that point, would you suggest possibly that the committee go back and retune this a little bit after we vote?
You know, it's like we're allowing, what we're doing here is every year, the Planning Commission, through its Ordinance Review Committee, comes to us with a list of things that they feel should be worked on based on inputs from citizens, based on public hearings at development meetings, based on master planning. This is what they feel should be done. What should be done is what this board should do is look at all 22,000 residents and say, is that what we want, or is that what Jack Curtis wants? Is that what we need, or is that what Jeffrey Omvet wants? So how do we let them work with our attorney, with our planner, and with the committees to develop these things? Should they come back with a list, we'll know with a vote. If there are no further questions, I'll call the vote, please.
Trustee Charles?
No.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Colvin?
No.
Treasurer Ferrari?
Yes.
Clerk Wright? No. Trustee Abbott?
No.
And Supervisor Curtis?
No. Okay, item 12E. 2025 Lake Orion Schools, Oxford Community Schools, Oxford Intermediate Schools, and Oakland County College Summer Tax Collection Agreements. Treasurer Ferrari.
Board members, in your packet is a requested increase of the tax collection fees that we charge the school districts for summer tax collections. In past years, we've kind of held it steady, but I think now it's time to look for an increase. And remember too, we also, in these agreements, get any interest we earn in the bank as well. I move to authorize Treasurer Joseph G. Ferrari to execute the agreements for the summer tax collections on behalf of the Charter Township of Oxford with Lake Orion Community Schools, Appendix A, Oxford Community Schools, Appendix B, Oakland Intermediate Schools, Appendix C, Oakland Community College, Appendix D, as presented, attaches agreements as appendices to the minutes.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Colvin. And if I may, thank you, Treasurer Ferrari, for reviewing these funds that we charge these entities for collecting their taxes and paying their bills. Another community close to us hasn't raised theirs in 10 to 15 years, and a $200,000 shortfall in working and paying these bills has been identified. Hopefully, with raising these fees that we charge for collecting these fees, just makes us whole. We're not out to make money on collecting fees and dispersing them, but we can't be doing it for free while they take our tax dollars. So if there are no, oh, yes, Trustee Colvin.
I just want to make a comment in the memo. It says all the entities are agreeable to this increase, so they're aware that.
Yes, they are. Trustee Charles.
I agree with this. In fact, it goes back to the comment earlier about us with the Village of Oxford. We collect their stuff too, that we should increase those. What is the reason for different amounts for different entities?
Based on the amount that's on the tax bill. Depending on the percentage of the amount that's on the tax bill. I try to make it, you know, because schools, Oxford Orion has a lot more on that tax bill, like a community college. So I try to make it prorated based on the percentage of amount that's on the tax bill.
I might just make it the same myself, but I guess I can go with that. Why
It's not
screw around, you know, it's not.
Any other questions? Yes.
Is it fair to sort of put this as the idea that this is a recovery fee?
Yes.
That's exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, for our work to collect the tax, or Joe to disperse the tax payments to each one of those entities, it costs us personnel hours, it costs us electricity, the building floor space, and it's a challenging operations. If there are no more questions, roll call.
Trustee Abbott?
Yes.
Clerk Wright? Yes. Treasurer Ferrari?
Yes.
Trustee Colvin?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Charles?
Yes.
Supervisor Curtis?
Yes, thank you, Treasurer Ferrari.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Okay, item 13, items removed from the consent agenda, there were none. Item 14, public comment. Oh, I have one.
Just thank you for helping out with the funding there. For us, that's going to be huge, and we're going to be able to divert our 37,000 back towards outfitting the next new fire engine, because we already, so it gives me someplace else to put the money that we've already spent. So thank you very much.
It'll be in your fund tomorrow morning.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing none, item 15, Board of Trustees comment. I'll start with Trustee Charles.
Question for Mr. Ferrari, what's the status of our website?
We've got a meeting coming up. We met with the group, I think it was in your, I think we had an update in the last meeting. We met with the Shoemaker group, tried another meeting together with everybody, got some homework we had to do. And then I think we're looking at the end of March, I was trying to get, I know I checked with Danielle, trying to get everybody scheduled together, and with vacations and the MTA conference coming up, it's kind of tough to get everybody scheduled, we're looking at the end of March.
Because when I first suggested we set up the website, the target date was January, so now we're into April, looks like.
Not an easy process, trust me. Lot of players in the game.
Trustee Wagner,
No comments.
trustee Colvin,
Enjoy the nice weather.
I will. Treasurer Ferrari,
No comment.
the clerk Wright,
No comments tonight, sir.
trustee Amvet.
I just want to say I look forward to attending my first Oxford Chamber State of the Community next Wednesday. And those who will be attending with me, look forward to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. I will not be there. I'm going on vacation Friday. I'll be back on the 24th of March. So my phone is gonna stay here in Michigan, and my computer will have a out of office, but we have the most responsible deputy supervisor available to handle any and all inquiries, except running these meetings, and we'll have none. So, I do request that trustee Wagner take back the ordinance review subcommittee list and work with planner Passalacqua to come up with a version that the ordinance review subcommittee would like to work on. Other than that, that's all my comments. Item 16,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
everybody in favor of adjourning signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those nays may stay here.